The California housing market is about to get worse because it's about to become even more unaffordable. Housing market affordability is worse now than at the height of the housing bubble back in 2006. And with that, the cost of starter homes for young families across Southern California and the Bay Area has doubled and tripled within the last decade. Since 2012, first-timers who can afford to buy has dropped to 32% from 66%. And that's why Americans now need to spend 43% of their income towards a mortgage as mortgage rates soar to 23-year highs. Mortgage rates are now at their highest point since 2000, which is causing an unaffordable housing market to become even more expensive. So you're probably watching this going, Jeb, if interest rates are going higher, that should bring home prices down, in theory, making things more affordable? Well, yes, in theory, that premise is true. As interest rates go higher, demand drops, which should in turn bring home prices down. But here's the catch. This market is different than any other market we've ever seen, as demand still exceeds supply in this housing market, following data that shows that home prices are still increasing. So the housing crash that everyone was hoping for hasn't happened, primarily due to the fact that inventory and demand continue to move in lockstep. So as we've seen demand pull back, we've also seen new listings coming to the market pull back, which in turn is keeping inventory off the market and stabilizing home prices. In fact, the only real crash that we've seen in the housing market is in the number of transactions taking place. The latest data showed that home sales fell once again in July, but at the same time, we saw supply drop to a quarter-century low. And during that same time, the median home price in July saw an increase of 1.9% from July of last year, taking us to a price of $406,700 on a nationwide basis. So you're probably watching this going, Jeb, if home prices are stable, interest rates are going up, what's going to make homes more affordable? Well, housing affordability is actually made up of 3 different components, which we're going to talk about right after you hit that thumbs up if you find any value in my videos at all. And also feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything real estate related. So the 3 factors that make up housing affordability, 1 is house prices, 2 is mortgage rates, and 3 are wages. And at the moment, we got home prices going up year over year. We got mortgage rates surging to the highest level we've seen in 2 decades. And while you have U.S. job growth slowing, you actually have wage gains remaining strong, which is part of the reason the Fed has continued to push so hard, raising the Fed funds rate 12 times over the past 18 months. Even though inflation is moderating and economic growth is slowing, the job market has remained resilient, in turn causing Treasury yields to hit decade highs as the whole higher for longer concerns start to take hold. So with that said, you're likely to see interest rates continue to stay in this range for some period of time, at a time when nearly 70% of homeowners have an interest rate below 4%. On top of that, we're headed into a time of seasonality when the housing market starts to slow. So typically this time of year is when you're going to see inventory peak and less people putting their homes on the market. And as interest rates rise, you're going to have less people putting their homes on the market, in turn only adding to the problem. So even though you're going to see demand pull back, you're also going to see inventory pull back at the same time, which is going to keep home prices stable. So when I started the video by saying the California housing market is only going to get worse, it's primarily due to the belief that inventory isn't going to flood the market, and we're likely to see mortgage rates stay higher for longer. On top of that, you have a wave of housing forecasts pointing to higher home prices, with Zillow predicting a 5.8% increase this year, with Freddie Mac seeing just under a 1% gain over the next year, along with Goldman Sachs revising its negative forecast of down 2.2% to now seeing home prices turn positive, up 1.8%. On top of that, we just got news that California's median home price just saw its first gain in nearly 9 months, taking the median home price up to $832,000, at a time when the number of transactions actually taking place fell nearly 9% from July of last year. In fact, the year-to-date statewide home sales here in California is down 30.3% from July of last year. In fact, when it comes to housing affordability, I recently read a little quote in a newsletter that I subscribe to here for Orange County Real Estate that more or less gave you a really good picture of what people are experiencing out there in the housing market. Now, because it's a newsletter that I subscribe to, I can't really take that information and post it here, but if you'd like to be on a mailing list where I send that out free of charge every time I get it, which is bi-weekly, there is a link in the description below. But it goes on to say, looking at 2013 helps illustrate how the goalposts have been moved for the lower price ranges. Back in 2013, 48% of the sales, the number of transactions taking place, were under $500,000. And 4,928 of those transactions were actually detached properties, so single family homes. But here's the thing, in 2019, that 48% dropped to 23%. And the 4,928 detached properties from 2013 dropped to just 404 detached properties. And then in July of 2023, we dropped to 9% of the transactions being under $500,000 and only 23 homes. 23 were actually detached properties, which essentially shows you that the lower price points are more or less fading away. But here's the thing, I'm going to say something completely controversial here, and it's that you shouldn't worry about mortgage rates. You shouldn't worry about home prices. You should worry about buying when it's the right time in your life. And instead of focusing on where mortgage rates are going to go or where home prices are go, make sure you're buying for the right reasons. Make sure you have a longer term time horizon, say 5, 7, 10 years. You have some money in the bank and that you're comfortable with the payment. As a homeowner, if you can just focus on making your monthly payment every month and don't get caught up in the media headlines of what's going to happen or what could happen, and you have time on your side, you're going to look back and be very, very glad that you became a homeowner as soon as it was physically possible and at a time when it made sense in your life. But if you're watching this video and you're here in Orange County and you want to know what's happening locally here in the market, do me a favor and check out this video here.